Welcome to IGN Overclocked episode, I think it's 18? I can't keep track of these things anymore. Hello, my name is Mitch Dyer. I'm one of your hosts, joined as always by Dan Stapleton.
I've been gone for like 6 weeks because I had that baby thing.
Babies, vacations, all happening back to back.
Congratulations on that baby thing.
Yeah, that baby thing.
That baby thing. We're also joined by Fullbright Company's Steve Gaynor.
Hello.
That's you.
I'm Steve.
Welcome, Steve.
Hi.
So this would normally be the part of the show where we dive deep into who you are, but we did that already today.
Very deep.
Yeah, we did. IGN Unlocked, the Xbox podcast. If you want to know a lot more about Steve, his career, gone home, coming to consoles, all that good stuff, check out that episode of IGN Podcast Unlocked, episode 227 with Steve. Steve, you're just going to be hanging out. We're just going to talk about some PC games. You make those, you play those.
I'm a PC gamer.
Yeah, man.
Yay.
I'm sort of lying to you because I do want to talk to you a little bit about Tacoma.
That's also going to be a PC game?
Your upcoming PC video game
Yeah,
coming
It's
this year.
relevant to our interests.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit on Unlocked, just a tiny second about what that game used to be. You know, you had this different idea after Gone Home. You were going to do another game set in a house. I wanted to pick your brain a little bit about how much of an idea was there for what Tacoma was going to be before it was Moon Game.
It was pretty big. It was pretty, not big as in like a massive game, but we had gone kind of far with it.
Okay.
I was writing story stuff, character stuff. Like we built a playable space, but it was still really early.
Sure.
It wasn't like real yet. Like we were working on it for maybe like 3 or 4 months, probably something like that before we switched. But like, yeah. Tacoma is called Tacoma because originally it was going to be set in Tacoma, Washington, and it was about this woman who is a singer. She's like a kind of like a folk singer, and like
It's very Pacific Northwest.
yeah. And so like what her life was like and etc. And her name was Evie St. James, and it was going to be a little bit of like a metafictional thing where the game is called Tacoma because it takes place in Tacoma, but also there's this like lost music album by this musician that never had a title, but fans found it and they called it Tacoma because it was recorded in Tacoma. So it's like there's this whole thing where it was like the name of the game and the album in the fiction, blah blah blah. And so anyway, something like that could be cool, right?
This all sounds rad, yeah.
Yeah, but
And he went from there to the moon.
yes,
Big jumps.
Because I think it could be good, but also there was a lot of things where it was sort of like as we kept developing it, we just realized it was too close to the last thing that we had done. Yeah, like there were ways in which it was not too close because it was different in a lot of ways, but there were ways that it was just too close. And not so much in terms of that means we could never do it or that's a bad idea or something, but like for it to be the next thing we do.
Sure.
And not even, I think even less so for like those of us who worked on Gone Home. What I started to kind of realize was like, if we were going to make another game that had that much in common with Gone Home, it really kind of divided the team between like the people who've done this before and the people who are like trying to do it for the first time now. And it just didn't feel right to like put the people we're working with like in that position of like, oh, we're kind of making
a new
more
house
Gone
again.
Home. You guys did that already. So, so I was like, we really just need to like push ourselves to do something that like none of us have done before and give the whole team a bunch of new challenges.
It's a very drastic turn of events.
Yeah. I mean, what is a space station really except
If not
a space house?
Yeah.
Good. I like that a whole lot.
Yeah.
So we haven't, I don't know how much you can even talk about the game right now. I mean, you can talk about as much as you want. You made it. You're the boss.
I love to talk about it.
However much you can or will talk about it, but I mean, rather than a basic idea of what the game is, we know a little bit about it's exploring the space station and
Gone Home in
this
space.
particular character. It's Gone Home in space. But what did you guys learn from the first game that has sort of affected I don't want to say improvements because it kind of implies that there were certain flaws with Gone Home, but like what have you done? What have you learned, man? What have you guys done that's better and new because of Gone Home? Like what lessons did you learn that now make this like a cooler thing?
I think that, let's see, I guess if anything, I think the real process has been discovering what we thought we had learned that doesn't actually apply the same way. Do you know what I mean? Like, because we got through Gone Home. We took a lot of lessons from the BioShock series that we had worked on together and applied them to how we built Gone Home. And then we built Gone Home and shipped it. And we were going forward and we're like, okay, so we solved a bunch of those problems. We can apply those, solutions directly. And I think a lot of the learning process has been actually discovering like, oh, we thought we knew how to do this, or we thought this, shape would fit into this hole, but like actually it's a different shaped problem and we just didn't realize it, you know? So I think it's if anything, it's been a continuing learning process of sort of like, oh, we thought we understood this aspect of this kind of thing or that, but like when you just change one piece of what you're trying to do, it just means you can't really use the same solutions anymore. I think that's a lot of what we've continued to kind of evolve the design since we last showed it to people in the summer. One of the things that we're really that is kind of and emblematic of that is, you know, in the version that that IGN played, you kind of found like these augmented reality like digital messages kind of like floating around, you know, sort of like there's a message here, there's an email here, and there was a fictional rationale for it, which was that was the last place that someone accessed that message and you're seeing it in like the AR. But like that said, you kind of have to explain it, and we just realized, well, we're just trying to treat emails like notes in Gone Home. Like we were like, oh, this is how it works. We'll just do that again.
I found an email lying around the house.
Yeah, and so the real learning experience has been like, okay, we can't just do that again. So I hope that what people find interesting about it is seeing how there are connections in like tone and approach and everything, but hopefully we've kind of questioned our assumptions deeply enough that it doesn't just feel like Gone Home in space. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you've actually added guns this time. Yes.
Finally.
A couple.
And ghosts.
Yes. I mean, to that end, it's actually the proton pack from Ghostbusters.
Love it. I'm just gonna bash this table as I make a small adjustment to my
Guns
seat.
in Gone Home.
You're one of the few developers outside of like particular AAAs like Valve who's sort of putting PC first. Like Gone Home came to PC it was on PC for many years before, and now it's finally coming to consoles. Yeah, it's coming to Xbox, but also on PC. I mean, I assume it started with PC and became a console.
I mean, I think pretty much all. I think even if you're making a console game,
right? You make them on a PC.
Yeah, you're like building it and testing it first on a PC, and then you're getting it onto the console.
But why do you think so many devs don't release PC games? Like a lot of them.
Is that even true anymore?
I think a lot of it's an afterthought. I think a lot of it is we need to port it to PC, and the port's not going to be very good.
But see, I think that's even. I still think that's less true than it was before. I think early like 90s and early 2000s, mid 2000s even. I think that was extremely true. I honestly feel like companies have gotten a lot better at making PC ports not be just a bad version of the console game in a whole lot of cases. But I think maybe it's possible that some of that comes from like
you do see. I mean, just anything that's a secondary platform that gets handed off to other developers.
Sure.
And I guess with Gone Home, that's something you guys outsourced, right? Or is that
no? We did that in-house. Yeah.
It had started outsourced, right? And then you brought it in.
And then we were just like, we'll just just to reduce the loop, you know, just sort of like we'll do it here, we'll make sure it's what we want it to be, we'll get it done.
Right, just to finish that point, I think when it does get outsourced and it doesn't end up being exactly what the original developers wanted it to be on that platform, is I think when you run into some problems.
I think it's also I think that there's a lot of developers now in the current landscape that there are more big developers now, I think, that kind of started on PC. You know, like if you look at like The Witcher 3 or something, right? It's like that's
Witcher never came to consoles.
Right. Yeah, so that was like PC led, and now it has a good console version. I think there's a lot of studios who are kind of conversant in it needs to feel like it was built for each platform it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, you see that a lot with Bethesda games with their user interface. It's just like, this is clearly meant for a mouse and a keyboard, not a controller.
Yeah, or vice versa in some cases, you know.
As with Fallout 4's interface, I don't know what it's meant for. It's meant to be used with the iPhone app.
Yeah, Skyrim too, where it's like even with a mouse and keyboard, I need to go like over, down, down, and none of this is convenient with a controller either.
Yeah. Although that one was kind of got the worst of both worlds, because all the text was so big because it needed to be for consoles, so you could read it across the room, but on PC it was like easier to control, but it's still kind of a mess and wasn't really good until you got the UI mod.
Yeah, at least you can mod the PC versions. No, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I've been lucky not to play a lot of what I felt like are like bad PC ports lately.
Skipped Batman, huh?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, yeah. And like, I think possibly also there's some games like I just have an Xbox controller hooked up to my PC and I can just kind of grab it or play mouse keyboard depending on what feels right. So like I played through like Life is Strange with a gamepad. So I don't really know if it felt like it wasn't a good PC port because I didn't really use like the PC native controls. So I think sometimes it's just sort of like the lines are blurring. You know, it's kind of easier for you to have the experience that's better regardless of which platform it's on. I don't know.
Yeah,
just bullshitting.
Yeah, that's fine. That's what we're here for.
Yeah,
We're not here for any absolutes or any. We're not here for information. Come on. You gonna say something?
No. I mean, just like that is one thing that a lot of people overlook when they're playing games on PC for review. Like some people just prefer to play with a gamepad and never really put the PC specific like mouse and keyboard controls through the paces.
Yeah.
You know, things like, you know, are all the keys remappable? It's easy to overlook.
Yeah.
You know, especially if you don't prefer personally to play that version.
Yeah, that was the big thing with Dark Souls when it came to PC. Is like, this is beautiful and it has everything in it, and it is almost unplayable.
Yeah, it looks and runs like the Xbox version, and you can't do anything unless you have an Xbox controller.
Yeah, I can't imagine even trying to play the game with mouse keyboard. You know, but I mean, I think that's like Spelunky. The retail Spelunky has mouse keyboard controls, but like, why would you? You know, I mean, probably like Street Fighter 4 on Steam has mouse and keyboard controls. Probably,
well, keyboard anyway.
Yeah, well, Street Fighter 5 is PlayStation 4 and PC exclusive.
Yeah,
so
right.
like they're gonna have to bake that in somehow for whoever's
I hope
not
that
using a
Street
gamepad.
Fighter. I hope someday at like Evo, you know how like the guy that won the Street Fighter tournament last year, he used like a PS1 no dual stick controller with an adapter. I hope that someday there's just the champion is a guy who just plays on a keyboard because that's his.
So great.
What's that?
Rising Thunder.
Yeah,
Seth
Rising
Killian's
Thunder
fighting game is built for a keyboard.
Yeah.
So it's like you move with WASD.
Right.
It's like he pandering to me told me it's like Dota 2, man. Like you press spacebar and Q and E and R and like all these things do different abilities and
Right.
You can mishmash them with directional stuff, but it's not like you're doing insane inputs with directions.
Rising Thunder, which I don't know if you guys have talked about it a lot, but it's Seth.
Go ahead.
Seth Killian, sorry. Seth Killian's game, and I think that it's a really cool design evolution to say like, I don't really know if all of these complex special move inputs are like the good thing about this game. What if we made it so it was just about deciding which input you were going to do instead of like, do you have the manual dexterity to do a double circle to do a Zangief spin move or whatever.
Did have that dexterity.
What if Zangief just pressed spacebar and did a cool thing?
Yeah, it's like you've got
casual.
It's like all those shortcuts existed in the first place because a controller just doesn't have that many inputs.
Right.
Whereas on a PC, it's like you've got all the inputs you could ever want.
Yeah. Which you putting it that way, I had never even thought about that. That's why quarter circle, half circle, hold, all that stuff is in those games because they're like, we have one joystick and 6 buttons.
It's born of limitation.
How do we do all these different moves? I guess we just do different weird stuff with the joystick.
Make it Z and punch.
Yeah, like that's crazy. I had never thought of it in those terms, but that's totally got to be true.
But it's also like games benefit, especially Street Fighter benefited from that, right? Like you have light, medium, heavy, and that modifies the particular input you're doing.
Yeah.
Which is already this weird thing, but now you have more abilities that are modified based on which buttons you hit because of limitation. And now it's like, well, if you just press P, then you shoot like a diagonal up, or you press L, you go diagonal down.
I prefer that. I prefer having a bunch of inputs that do specific things. Like it drives me nuts when you get like a game like the Mass Effect 3 PC version where like spacebar does everything.
Right? Yeah.
It's like it's so contextual that you end up doing the wrong thing because you were in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, it's like any game that has like reload, jump, and cover on the same button.
Right.
Like, what are you doing?
I think Fallout 4 has like that problem with like reload and grenade. Like you hold the same button to throw the grenades. It's like it's like, and that's a not a great idea for the PC version. Just have those be bindable as separate buttons. Yeah. It's just an example of maybe they didn't take quite as much time with the PC version as to make it feel like it was their absolute primary platform.
Yeah. Well, there was more overlap, I think, with the binds in that game because I remember I played a lot of the game for a month or so after it came out, and I really like the UI design evolution of how you just mouse over a container and it shows you what's in it. You don't have to click to see what's in it, choose what you want. You can just look at it, either take it or not, and walk away. But like, because of muscle memory from the last 30 years of playing video games, I would hit the like back out button if I didn't want it sometimes, and it would bring up your Pip-Boy.
Yep.
I'm like, Why are Back and Pip-Boy the same? Can't there just be a cancel button for this? Okay, whatever.
The moral of the story is don't screw up Tacoma on PC.
Hey,
that's
man.
all we're saying.
I'm gonna do our best.
Are you, just out of curiosity, are you adding anything in the Gone Home console version that isn't in the PC version, or that you're going to go back and add to the PC version or anything like that?
Chivos. I mean, like achievements and trophies are a platform requirement.
Yeah.
So those weren't in the PC version. We're gonna put them in. We did some like bug fixes and like performance improvements and stuff like that. But that said, aside from achievements and trophies, our intent is just to make the console versions a really great version of the PC game. There's not like extra the developer commentary mode is in the PC version. It's going to be in the etc. So at some point, our plan is to go back and integrate like fixes and optimizations and Steam achievements for Gone Home. But like, it's going to be such a minor change, again, aside from the achievements, that we got to Tacoma to work on. I don't know what the timeline is going to be like for that, but I mean, it'll fix some bugs. It'll add some stability and some performance for some users. So at some point, we're going to bring that stuff online for the PC version, but I don't know when that's going to be.
What is the hardest achievement in your game?
Hold on, I'm thinking. Sorry.
We could vamp, but I'm just gonna make it real weird and just wait.
No, we're doing this thing. So we put in speedrun achievements.
Really? That's awesome. Go straight for the key.
Well, there's two speedrun achievements. One, there's an any % speedrun achievement and an all journals speedrun achievement.
Well played.
So probably the hardest achievement is the 100% journals speedrun. Probably. Alternately, no. Without a guide, well, that one's the hardest, like having to do thing, like version. Probably the hardest one to do without just a guide is there's an achievement for listening to all of the commentary nodes, and there's 68 of them.
Dang.
And some of them are like inside closets and secret compartments and stuff. So it's really easy to miss one, and then you're just like, oh, fuck me.
So with the way that Steam pushes achievement or updates rather. Are you ever tempted to, especially with a game like Gone Home, to just go back and just change something subtle and see if anyone notices?
I mean, that would be fun.
Yeah.
I'm not tempted to have to make a Steam patch, though.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, some games are set up to have, like, live content updates that don't even go through, like, the patching process or whatever. That is not us.
A little arduous for you, huh?
Yeah, but, I mean, it would be fun to troll players to just, like, just go in, make a patch so that, like, 1% of players just see a ghost in a room.
But only for like a couple frames. So they think
and only on Halloween.
Yeah.
And nobody will believe them.
That's the amazing thing is like I was, as far as just like what like streaming culture and like Let's Play culture has how it's affected. What it has wrought. How it's affected like Easter eggs and stuff like that. I remember when I think it was one of the Battlefield games came out recently. It might have been Battlefield Hardline. I'm not sure, but their animator put in special like ridiculous reload animations.
Oh yeah, it was like 1 in every 10,000 is this
I think it was more. I think it was like 1 in every million reloads or something. And like the first day the game was out, they just had like YouTube supercuts of all of the ridiculous reload animations. I'm like, yeah, man, like you get a few 100,000 people playing that thing. How many of them are going to be streaming? How many of them you're going to reload like 20 times a match?
Well, you can also like between like Fraps, PlayStation Share, and Xbox Record that everyone can do anything they want.
Shadow play.
Shadow play. God, I keep forgetting about Shadow play.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely when you have the systems where you can see something and be like, go back and get that.
Yeah.
Then like it's so anyway, somebody would catch that day one.
But that's the fun thing. Like, are they gonna record it? Are they gonna be talking about it?
Yeah, let's find out.
I'm gonna unsubtly transition to. I want to talk to about everyone's most wanted PC video game of 2016. Let's start with Steve.
Okay.
Our guest. What in this year aside from Tacoma? What stands out to you as like, man, that's the thing I've got to play before anything else?
Is Dishonored 2 this year?
I think it is.
Allegedly.
Dishonored.
Pending delays, yes.
If Dishonored 2 factually comes out, not just allegedly, I think it'll be that. Deus Ex Mankind Divided, that's confirmed to be like, what,
July
Q2 or
August
something.
whatever. Yeah,
or-
they delayed it out of February to I think August.
So that's 100% up there. I really liked Human Revolution. I thought they did a really good job of modernizing Deus Ex,
especially once they fix the bosses.
Yes. Well, and especially just because I don't think they had hardly any like original team members that had worked on the first 2 games. Like that's a big ticket to to have to fill out. Like, oh yeah, we'll make a new Deus Ex game. I guess we'll just figure that. Yeah,
totally gonna be easy.
So I'm psyched to see what they do with Mankind Divided. And I'm really looking forward to Firewatch by my friends at Campo Santo because they've been working hard on that game. It's beautiful. It's a walking simulator. I love to simulate walking.
It's one of my favorite things to simulate
inside of a computer or video game console. So
it's like the first fat guy walking simulator.
I love that Vandeman is so excited about the fact that his character is a fat guy.
Well, and one of the few like non-Lara Croft video game protagonists to be wearing shorts. He's a chubby guy in shorts. That's who you play as. Get used to it.
It's that and UPS Driver Simulator that are really pushing that.
They can do that in like GTA San Andreas.
That's true. But that's your choice. Those aren't enforced shorts.
Those are not regulation for your job shorts.
Man, I'm surprised that there is not Euro delivery truck driver on PC. I mean, maybe there is. There's a lot
Amazon's got to be working on that game.
Yeah.
And the twist is, it turns out it's not a game. You're actually delivering packages for Amazon.
It's the Ender's Game twist.
I can't I would have so much respect for Amazon Game Studios if they actually were like, you know what people go crazy for on Steam? Bus simulator, truck simulator, train simulator. We're going to do Amazon delivery simulator. Yep. You drive a truck until you get good enough. Then you get to drive a drone and drop packages on people's roofs. And they actually shipped that? Holy crap.
They got to ship something someday.
I would go wild if that was what they did.
Got to team up with Bohemia Interactive and work on that.
Yeah.
There we go. Make it super realistic.
Get the take on Mars engine and go nuts.
Make it completely unintuitive in every way.
Yeah.
No problem. I'm super looking forward to Firewatch 2. That they brought that game by a couple times. We did a couple weeks back an IGN first video on it, and just every time I see that game, I'm like IGN.com blown away.
Yeah.
Like all these art is amazing, and Sean's writing is great, and the UI improvements they've made over the last 6 months, or even just everything is so good.
I've really hardly played any of it. I've played like their Expo builds, but I haven't so I'm gonna be playing it fresh when it comes out.
Yeah, I've seen. Yeah, I've just watched as well, and
just Firewatch.
From what I've seen so far, I just like that I still don't know what it's really about.
Yeah.
But it's still kind of enticing.
We were talking about that over lunch.
What is
so
Firewatch?
Few games. Yeah, what is Firewatch? We were talking about it over lunch. That so few games and movies actually have mystery when you go into them. Like you go into them knowing basically everything.
Thanks, trailers.
Yeah, and it was so exciting to go into Force Awakens and the first sentence of the crawl. I'm like, I didn't know that. That's awesome. And I'm going into this not knowing what the mystery is. I know there is a mystery, but it's not like, and the mystery is somebody's gone missing in the woods and you've got to find them. Like, I just don't know what it is. I have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, we tried to do that with Gone Home. I mean, there's only so much you can do after the game's out there.
Sure.
But I mean, I think that's kind of the ideal, is to say, like, there's a house, you get to it, you don't know where everybody is. What happened here? Play the game and find out. And you're like, oh, it sounds like a spooky, I should find out what happens. You know, because, like, we never wanted to say, like, spoilers.
Ooh,
like,
I was gonna say,
your sister's missing, go find her. You know, like, you find that out in pretty much the first 5 minutes of the game. But like you said, the opening crawl being where you find out what the premise is pretty cool
good.
Compared to knowing it before you even buy a ticket.
And so few games instill the respect in the player, like you guys did, to not want to spoil it for people. Like, people have discussions about it, but everyone's really guarded. Like, y'all play Gone Home, right? No? We'll wait. We'll have this conversation later.
I guess with Firewatch, we did see the opening for it, but I guess that's not out there yet.
Correct. We can't talk about it.
Yeah. Well, I'm certainly not going to.
No, because it's
really
good.
It's the part where Henry puts on his shorts.
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
It does. It added some interesting context to what
James really went to work on those animations.
Yeah, man.
Dan, what about you?
XCOM 2.
XCOM 2.
I can't get through a podcast without talking about XCOM.
No, of course. It's me, and I do this with Far Cry 2 on Unlocked.
Yeah.
Just can't stop.
Why did... Wait, are you saying we went through an entire...
I know, and I didn't have the chance.
Do you guys want to talk about Far Cry 2? That is a good PC game.
You guys want to talk about a PC game that's better than the console version?
Yeah.
Far Cry 2 is like unplayable on consoles to me.
And you want to know why? It doesn't have a quick save. Like...
You quick save?
Oh, yeah.
What?
Dude, I'm not going to lose 40 minutes of progress between safe houses.
You're doing it wrong.
Sorry, man. like that's the cutoff for me. I can't lose progress of that like volume. And
I do
just
it on
keep
replays
playing.
now that I'm like, okay, I did it. I played through it all. I didn't do quick saves.
The thing is, there's so much. It's such a long game. Even if you never lose progress, that I'm fine.
It's because you got to walk everywhere.
Yeah, or drive your Jeep until it runs into a gazelle and breaks.
and yet you're not super psyched about Far Cry Primal this year, huh?
I'm actually interested in Far Cry Primal. Here's the thing: they figured out a loophole. They figured out how to make a Far Cry with no guns.
Yep.
It's because they've got spears instead.
That's pretty good. I do like that there's no cars. There's no, like, you can ride an elephant. That's about it.
Ride a rhinoceros, probably.
I hope so.
I don't know.
I want to tame a rhino.
No, I'm interested in Far Cry Primal. I mean, I think it's pretty bold for them to be like, it's not Far Cry medieval, it's not Far Cry Victorian, it's not Far Cry ancient China, it's Far Cry caveman. Deal with it. Like, that's good.
They don't want to step on Assassin's Creed's feet.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, AC's probably not going to go back to caveman times, so somebody's got to.
I mean,
They went back to like weird space alien times.
They'll run out of times eventually.
they're gonna yeah, exactly. They're gonna keep making Assassin's Creeds until there's nothing but cavemen left.
Yeah,
Whatever that means. That sounds like what I meant was like there's a nuclear
And then
bomb and
we're
we're
all
like bomb back to
cavemans.
the Stone Age.
Yeah.
Which maybe that's also probably true of Assassin's
That's
Creed.
that's what the PlayStation dinosaur game is about.
Oh yeah, I forget what that one is. What's that? Who cares? Anyway, Horizon Zero Dawn.
There we go.
Anyway, but yeah, speaking of
Nailed it.
It's rad.
speaking of space alien times,
Yes.
Yeah.
XCOM 2.
XCOM
right.
2. You've been playing it.
You've
I have
playing
been
it.
playing it. Yes, so I got a build that is it's a preview build, so it's still got some chunky bugs in there, and load times are a little longer than
Old
I'd
chunky
like.
bugs.
And but
My nickname in high school.
yeah, the
That's my
dramatic
nickname now.
the dramatic part of this build is that it cuts me off a few months in.
Okay.
So
It's
they
like a
don't-
timed
Yeah, they don't want to
build,
give
okay.
everything away. So
Sure.
So I keep hitting that thing, and there are actually like some aliens in there that that they're saying it's like, oh, you can totally see these. I have not seen like the new aliens they're trying to show off because I'm getting sidetracked by all the other like.
Go through and do a speed
Yeah,
run.
pretty much you have to do it to see it. And this is a problem that no one but me will ever have.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
to see the things they wanted me to see in this build, like I never saw them because I got sidetracked by all the stuff because there's so much stuff in this game. One of the things they've done a really good job of is broadening the base of the tech tree.
Okay.
Because and basically making it feel different every time you play through it, because one of the problems
Because you
with
kind of always started from the same place, basically, in
right
XCOM.
in Enemy Unknown and Enemy Within, one of the big criticisms of it is that like you can just develop a pattern of this is how you play, this is an optimized pattern to play through, and this one kind of takes that away from you in a very Civilization-esque way by kind of randomizing the terrain of the strategy map. So this time you're taking Earth back from the aliens, so you start in a random place on the map. And the continent bonuses are all randomized, so there's no clear path to victory there. You have to read the map and figure out how to do it, like you do in Civ. And it's much simpler than Civ, obviously.
But aren't you on like a big giant plane flying around?
You are. You're
But
on
you still
the
have.
Avenger, yes.
But you still have like a bonus that's tied to like the place that you launch from. Or
right. So
something?
what you're doing is you're making contact with the resistance cells in each area and networking them together with communication towers and things like that. So as you establish communication, you effectively control that territory, and the aliens will attack periodically and try and take it back from you. So and in this one, unlike Enemy Unknown, you can actually retake things that have been taken back from you. So it's more of a push and pull. Meanwhile, the aliens are trying to fill up a victory bar of their own by building evil facilities and completing evil projects in them, and you can push that bar back down by taking out those facilities or doing other story-based things that will move the needle back in your favor and buy you more time.
That sounds like that would be addressing a specific aspect of Enemy Unknown, which was just like you were always losing. It was just a question of by how much. You could never turn that back if you lost.
This
some
also
of it.
just it makes it sound like a much different game, because Enemy Within it was really cool, but I looked at it and I'm like, it's an expansion, right? Like it is Enemy Unknown with like some modifications, some really cool new stuff that is great.
Well, it's building on it.
Yeah. Whereas this is very much like, no, like the premise is different. How you operate is different. The things you're doing are different. Like you are not XCOM. You're not building up this massive base and then defending from invasion and reacting. It's like, no, you are trying to survive, and like you're building up from nothing, and I really like that.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, it's very similar.
Sure.
Yeah, it's all the tactical gameplay is similar.
You're gonna click on some dudes, and they're gonna die.
Yeah, and the strategic layer is completely new.
Yeah.
But it does share some DNA.
So I've something that I really liked XCOM. I mean, the Enemy Unknown was the first one. Enemy Within is the expansion.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, I like both of them. I played the expansion as well as the base game. I played enough that, not to be too critical, but I felt like individual encounters lasted longer than I would have wanted. I think especially after I'd played a lot of them, I'm like, okay, this has an arc of like a pretty long lead up. You make contact. There's kind of like a war of attrition. It takes a while. Clear it, and like I did so many encounters that I kind of wish that each encounter had been focused in a little bit. Do you feel like encounters are tighter or have less of a footprint this time? Are they more big or the same? I don't know.
It varies. Like, there are a bunch of different mission types. And the thing that kind of makes them give them a little bit more energy is that there's always a secondary objective.
Right.
So
which they added in Enemy Within with like the little things you could collect or having to defuse bombs or something.
Right. So and the bomb defusal one is a good analog to a lot of the things they do in this one. Like they'll have an alien terminal you have to reach and hack within a certain number of turns. So they'll have a friendly piece of equipment like a transmitter you have to reach before the aliens destroy it.
Right. When you hack the alien computer, do you see the little skull from Independence Day if you zoom in on the monitor and Jeff Goldblum goes if you say no, it's a no buy.
Well, spoilers.
Okay, all right.
I gotta leave some mystery. But the hacking mechanic is kind of cool in that it's all stat based and dice rolls just like everything else. But you get to choose between generally you get to choose between two outcomes. Like if you succeed, so like you'll get for example, there's one that will like 50% chance if you succeed, you permanently raise this soldier's hacking skill by 20 points, or even higher if you like 20%, you might take control of this of all the robotic enemy units on the map for a few turns.
Okay.
So and if you fail either of those, then enemy reinforcements get called down on you.
Right.
So there's a lot of risk reward.
Sounds super intense.
Yeah.
Like a lot more can just go wrong.
Right.
Like it's not necessarily that you're failing more often, like you said, but just that there are more ways to do so.
Yeah.
It also sounds like there's more ways to recover.
Yeah.
So, which is good. I mean,
yeah,
push and pull. Right?
Soldiers do seem more versatile and powerful overall, and so do the aliens. Like they adopted the Enemy Within thing of giving every soldier 2 slots for equipment once you build an upgrade.
Good.
They do things like reloading no longer ends your turn. So you can reload if you don't. You can reload and then fire if you don't move.
Oh, cool.
There are a bunch of things like that give you, and upgrades that give you more mobility, more lethality.
Yeah.
Just more versatility for your troops, which I really like.
XCOM 2, they never like changed the story on this or anything, right? It's like a straight up PC exclusive, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't doubt that it will eventually.
You think
come
it's
to
maybe
consoles.
a PC timed exclusive, and I could see that
yeah.
because then if they're like we're going to develop the game in one form and then get it on the console later, I could totally see that.
Didn't they do that with XCOM? Like it didn't come right away.
No,
did
it
No,
was
it did.
day and date.
It was day and date.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dang, I thought it was
But
later.
I guess I asked because I just
Same day
wondered.
as Dishonored, actually.
Yeah.
Great day.
I had to make a decision that day.
Yep.
It was Dishonored, and then it was XCOM soon after. But I was just wondering if it felt like there was anything like PC specific about the experience. That was sort of like that they could only do because it's a PC scoop. Period.
So I mean, there's going to be Steam Workshop integration, which is going to be huge.
So what can people do with that?
Well, they're putting out all like full mod tools and everything.
Oh,
day
wow.
one. So it's going to be I mean, Jake Solomon, the creative director, is big on the idea of it being a platform for people to mess with. And
Sure.
So they're apparently blowing it wide open and giving people everything to mess with. So.
How much was there in the way of that for Enemy Unknown? And
Very
Enemy
little.
Within? Okay.
It was actually very difficult to mod. It took a long time for like the major mod is called the Long War.
Right.
Makes
I've
it
seen about
super
that, yeah.
hard.
Okay.
Those guys just started a studio, right?
They did, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because I'm not. I guess It's interesting because for Axis, obviously, like Civilization and
modding,
everything, yeah, it's like a mod-driven studio practically. Like all their games are like mods popularize their games in a lot of ways, and I guess maybe it sort of makes sense to me now that I think of it because XCOM was, I think, maybe the first game they'd ever shipped on Unreal. And so I could see them being like, okay, we're not using our own engine, we're not using the Civ engine or whatever, we're using Unreal. We just got to ship a game on it.
Yep.
And our target for the sequel is we need to make it moddable, like #1 bullet point.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yep, they do seem to have really put that emphasis on it because there was a lot of potential for mods in Enemy Within, and it never really realized all of it beyond Long War. Even that, like, you could tell there was a bunch of stuff they wanted to do and couldn't quite make work.
Sure, yeah.
But this one, they're putting that front and center, so that's going to be huge. I mean, there's stuff that I question whether a console could handle, and load times I think would be extraordinarily long on console.
But nothing about like the interface or whatever.
The interface feels very similar.
Okay, because I felt like the interface on the first game on PC was a little squishy. It didn't really feel totally PC native to me. Going back to the beginning of our discussion, I guess.
I was going to bring that up too, actually, because it does feel like they are kind of designing it with an eventual console version in mind. It doesn't feel like they went full on mouse and keyboard dedicated.
Sure.
But it's better. Like they've got a bunch of things in there. Like they've got a bunch more information on the screen. Like it'll break down like, here's why your shot sucks.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it'll say
as
like,
opposed to just being like, haha.
It's like you have a 2% chance to hit this guy, and you have to go into a full other screen to see that. This one, it just has on the UI. You can expand it out, and it says, "This guy's in full cover, and you're drunk." So
classic XCOM resistance soldiers.
Can your soldiers?
You can't get drunk.
Okay.
You can be disoriented. You can be knocked unconscious. You
Poisoned,
can be poisoned. You can be there's acid. There's
right.
fire. There's a whole bunch more status effects.
Sounds like a real bad scene for one guy.
Yeah, I really like. You have a 20% hit chance. You are on fire. Is the reason.
Yeah.
And the character model's just like standing there. Right?
Well, there are limitations for when you're on fire. It's like you can't do stuff because like, you are burning.
I'm sure. You probably don't want to reload your firearm if you're on fire at the time.
I expose these rounds real quick.
I had one poor bastard who got like wrapped up by a viper, which is, I don't know if you
a snake woman.
Yeah. Sexy snakes lady.
Snake boobs.
Yeah. they actually
back of the box.
They seem
snake
much
boobs
less
confirmed.
Yeah. They seem much less sexy in action. But anyway,
speak for yourself.
Now I'm not in.
But so she can
you
like,
had me gone.
She can like grab you with a frog tongue from across the map, suck you over to her, and then bind you like and
you're not making this not sound sexy. Right. You're making it way worse.
Yeah. So I had one poor guy who got
it
grabbed.
Always deals 69 damage.
Yeah. He got grabbed, he got bound, and then like other guys started wailing on him until he was dead. Oh. Like that was
Snake seems OP.
Yeah, well, I mean she definitely can be. You gotta watch out for them.
It sounds a little bit like she sounds a little bit like the smoker from Left 4 Dead.
First thing I thought when I saw that video.
Yeah,
but getting yanked across the map.
And in XCOM, if you're out of cover, you're basically screwed.
Right.
So like if somebody gets bound, you've got to take out. You got to like if you hit her once while she's got someone bound, she gets she'll release him.
Yeah.
So you've just got to hope
you got to make sure that somebody
that
right.
Can you potentially hurt your guy?
You can. Yeah.
Yes, that's so good.
It seems like it's got to. Yeah.
One of the things they did with kind of a stand-in for the or an evolution of the concept of meld in Enemy Within, which was the timed, the expiring canisters of goodies.
Yeah, like the progression resource. Yeah.
Side quests, basically.
Well, just a secondary task on the map.
Yeah.
One thing they've done here is they added loot. So when you kill that viper, she might drop there's like a 9-tile area that you have to get into, and you can pick up some loot. There's a 3-turn countdown for that.
Okay.
So if the first enemy in a pod that you kill happens to be the one that drops loot, then you've got a real incentive to kill everyone else real quick and get in there.
Or have somebody with like a lot of shielding just run in.
Yep.
Take the hits and then get out or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And some of that loot can be pretty powerful. They've got things like there's an upgrade for a gun that will even if you miss, you'll do damage. So it's like kind of like a spray kind of thing, right?
Okay.
It's like, oh, well, I missed with the bulk of it, but I kind of.
But the buckshot connected somewhere.
Yep. There's just enhancements to critical hit chance or aim, but there's also there's like an auto reloader, so you can say like, oh, the first 2 reloads of a mission don't cost an action.
Nice.
So there's
So
stuff
there's like one-time use things, like only during that mission. If you use it, it's gone forever.
No, it like as long as you have that gun.
Okay.
It sounds like they're upgrades. They're upgrades to specific pieces of equipment, not to like.
Guns,
okay.
yes.
Then can you transfer that gun between classes?
Yes,
and
you
stuff?
can, or between individuals.
Units,
yes.
in that class.
And if somebody dies, and you are able to like say you're on a mission, you've got a guy with a badass gun, he gets killed.
Gaynor down.
Yeah, he gets killed. You then have to go and grab him. If you want to retreat, you have to go and grab him, carry him on your shoulder. That corpse.
I'm assuming that inhibits mobility and fire and accuracy. And
you can't fire, but you seem to be able to move out pretty much as far.
Okay.
But you have to carry him out on your shoulder, or you lose the gun.
Huh.
What about the guy?
Oh, the guy's probably dead. Well,
You can't just take the gun?
Yeah,
well,
why can't you just
if
take
he's
the gun?
unconscious? If he's unconscious, you can
Alright.
you can save him. But yeah, he's
You got
if
to
he's
carry
dead,
a
he's dead.
corpse to take his gun?
Yeah, I think you should be able to take a gun.
Questionable. What if I
Yeah.
just throw my gun in the garbage and pick up Steve's?
Yeah, it's still a little bit disappointing that there's no on battlefield inventory management like there
I was
in the
about to
originals.
ask, like, I was wondering if, like, let's say, whatever the tactical situation was, you were like, my guy has the gun that would be really good for that guy to have right now if you could,
Right.
like, throw it to
Yeah,
him or
oh
whatever.
my God.
But, like,
There's some really
there's none
badass
of
movie
that.
moments there.
Did you ever play the original XCOM?
Mhm.
Yeah, like that.
I mean, I
that
didn't
you
play it
could
a
do that.
whole lot.
Yeah.
It's a pretty intense.
That's
Yeah.
my
if you
favorite
didn't-
game
if
of
you
all
didn't-
time.
Oh yeah, no. I mean,
Could you do that?
I just
Yes. Oh my
didn't.
God.
I think I'm not a huge like tactical turn-based guy, and I didn't get into it at the right time. Like by the time I tried it, it was like so. It took me a lot of tries to actually play maybe more than like an hour of System Shock 1 because System Shock 1 without like the mouse look mod or anything
It's like
is
so hard
just
to
like
play.
I've
it's
still
one of
never
those
played
old
it.
games.
it's hard just because they were making an FPS before FPS controls existed,
Yep.
basically.
Yeah, XCOM's UI is
And XCOM
is
feels that way, where you're
real
just
tough.
sort of like, okay, I hope you're either 13 in 1993 and you have
Yep.
a lot of time to bang your head against it, or you have like nowadays like a good wiki open on like
I had the same experience
Yep.
playing
Yeah.
Syndicate for the first time.
Oh, and I played Syndicate for the first time when I was 13, and I
Yep.
loved that game. But
Yep.
if I tried to play it now, I don't know if I'd feel the same way.
impossible.
Yeah, even like Satellite Rain was kind of difficult to get into.
Yeah.
And I played Syndicate back in the day too.
Yeah.
Um,
But anyway, you were saying, sorry.
yeah. I could talk all
You
day.
can't
about
throw
XCOM, so.
sweet. You can't have a sweet moment of throwing a shotgun to your bro.
You cannot. You
So
cannot do that.
disappointing.
Yeah.
But
I
there's
think,
gonna be mod tools.
right. I think the
first mod will be shotgun
Yes,
tossers.
that's all I care about. Leaving one guy behind cover with nothing.
Well, I mean, in it's a class-based game, so you can't really transfer like
Sure.
only Rangers or
Right.
can use shotguns.
That'll be the
Lame
second mod.
excuses.
But
Lame excuses, I say.
yeah, I mean, like they could someone definitely will make a mod where anyone can equip anything.
Right. Yeah.
But where was I going with that? Oh yeah, Rangers are badass. I want to make an all Ranger squad. 'cause
Are they
they've
the
got-
guys with like the knives?
They
and
got the
stuff?
swords, yeah,
Oh yeah, right. Okay.
Oh, swords.
yeah.
A
That's
shaber.
yeah. Those things are vicious
Snake
because
shaver.
they're vicious because of the effective range. Like your guy becomes a projectile basically. You can
That's really cool.
you can move and then move again and attack. So attack at the end of the
All
move.
the actions.
Right. So it's you can hit a guy a long way away with that.
But they just have no guns at all.
no they have a shotgun.
Okay.
But so the,
Okay, I want to make
Yeah.
All I want
a
is
squad
Rangers.
full of them as well.
so the danger is that-
Sold.
yeah, the danger is that once you're out there and you've attacked with the sword, you're like
You're
way,
not in cover.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
well, you can be in cover depending on where you are, but you're way up there, away from the rest of your squad, and you risk activating another pod of aliens beyond.
Right.
It's
So-
basically the risk reward of in Enemy Within when you had like a cyborg, like a mech suit soldier who either had the puncher or the flamethrower or whatever. It's like they've got to get right up in there, do the attack, but then they're in the middle of everything. Of course, they're like a robot person, so their spec is that they can take a bunch of damage. But even then, they
But
would
they
be
can't even use
vulnerable.
cover, yeah.
And so if your ranger is just a normal guy and is in that situation, it seems like you have to be really strategic about that.
Yeah, I mean it takes some finesse to get them to work right, but man, they do some real damage if you upgrade them real good.
Is the sword very powerful? I mean, is the kind of thing where you get it in there, they're at least like effective at taking the guy down? That
Yeah.
they're okay.
Yeah, and especially if you get the right upgrades.
Laser a sword.
So, they have, and the only one I was able to get in this build was one that you effectively take from the enemy, which is they have Advent soldiers.
Snake Shabo.
One of them has it's called a stun lancer. I hate those guys so much because they can do the same move, so their range is huge. And they'll charge in, total disregard for their own safety, but they can get you from a long way away, and they can stun you.
Okay.
So that they can take one of your guys out of the fight, do a lot of damage. If there are 2 or 3 of them, it's I hate those guys so much. They have screwed me over so many times.
Dan's having war flashbacks
yeah.
right now.
Like once you get armor and magnetic weaponry, they're much less of a threat. But early game, they are nasty as hell.
Yeah.
So,
but so you can get a stun sword from them. Okay.
Yeah. So you autopsy them, and like they've moved a lot of upgrades into the autopsies, which I think they did in Enemy Within as well.
I think so. Yeah.
So there's a big incentive. That's what I was talking about with broadening the base of the research tree. There's so many things you get early on that it's no longer just a clear path of like get this, then this, and this, and then get everything.
Right.
It's much more. You have to choose what you're going to do and determine how you're going to progress.
Yeah.
Which
I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't looked into it very closely. I've watched the pre-render trailers and stuff and read about it a little bit, but I was sort of like, I'm going to be checking this out. I'll just see what happens. So this is the first I'm hearing about a lot of these details. They sound like really good
you've heard about the procedurally generated maps, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm interested. I mean, do those seem to work well?
Yeah.
Are they the danger I always seem to encounter with those when it's not something that's like truly tile based, like the original XCOM or like Spelunky or something, is like how chunky the molecules are. Like, does it actually feel like it's truly procedurally generated, or does it just kind of seem like, oh, it's the one with those 2 buildings and that one building that I've played 100 times before, but in a different arrangement or something?
Board.
So, yeah, I mean, like a lot of things that are procedurally generated that they aren't cool with having like a really low level of fidelity for, it ends up feeling that way.
Yeah, I mean, they ended up with a system they describe as like a quilt, which is they've got the roads are static, but what building goes where is different, and they've got a bunch of different buildings that can fit into each slot.
Okay.
And a bunch of things strewn around like cars and plants and stuff like that everywhere that get rearranged. And I haven't felt like I've played the same map twice.
Okay, awesome.
I mean, it does, like the tile sets. It's like, oh, I'm in this tile set again. But it's like I don't feel like there's any benefit to trying to memorize the layout.
Right. Well, and if it feels, because I mean that sounds similar to how the original XCOM was. It's like they might drop a barn or a farmhouse in there. It's going to be that barn or house or whatever, but it still felt like it was a truly procedurally generated layout of the whole battlefield.
It's pretty similar. Oh, cool. And another thing they did that I love is the destruction is better.
Okay.
Like you can destroy floors and ceilings now.
Nice.
So like if you see an enemy like up on a rooftop, you get your grenadier, you fire a grenade up there. Yeah. Takes out the floor under them, and they fall through, and it does extra damage.
So good.
I'm really excited. So this is. Do you guys know what I'm gonna ask now? Did you guys ever play Silent Storm?
Oh, and I never did. No, I missed that one.
So I mean, it's on GOG and I think Steam and stuff. I think it would be really interesting for you to just grab it and play a couple hours of it. It's from like 2004. It's janky in a lot of ways.
This looks like SWAT.
Should I do Silent Storm or Silent Storm 2?
The original Silent Storm. Mitch is currently looking at Silent Storm Gold Edition, which is go for it, whatever. But it has what it was
alternate World War II, right?
Right. Yeah. And so it really felt like a cross between XCOM and Jagged Alliance. Mm-hmm. And so you're playing in alternate World War II. You get to the point where there's like walker mechs and stuff, but they're like cool, like gasoline powered, like lo-fi walker mechs, etc. But putting all that aside, it has that feature you're talking about where you're like, you got your guys fog, it's all about awareness, so you can't see anything that your guys aren't currently looking at, and there's like multi-level houses and stuff, and so you're like creeping your guys into a house, and then you hear footsteps on the floor above you, and you just take out your heavy machine gun guy and just lay into the ceiling, and it just blows a hole in the ceiling, and the guy falls through and dies. Excellent. Yeah, and like I remember a really good moment when I was playing where like I had a couple of guys outside of a house, like on on a hedgerow or whatever, and I was getting shot at from an upper window by a sniper, and I didn't have a shot on him, but I had somebody fire a rocket launcher at it, and it didn't hit him, but it blew out the whole front of the house, and then my guy had a shot on him and just took him out, and he like fell out of the hole into the street.
There's a lot of that in XCOM.
That's
too,
awesome.
like destroying cover.
Yeah.
The Grenadier, in fact, has an ability that's devoted entirely to that. It's like it does no damage to the enemy, but it'll destroy his cover.
Nice.
That's really
And
good.
like that's my primary use for grenades as well. Is just destroying the cover and then let somebody else kill them.
I mean, it's so cool just to be able to say like, there's guys beneath us. One of us is going to take their turn to just blow a hole in the floor, and then the other guys are all going to shoot down into it. Like, and it's awesome that XCOM 2 is going to have that as well. That's great.
I don't know if you guys have heard, but Silent Storm is rendered in breathtaking 3D, and turn-based gaming has never looked this good.
I mean, in 2004, that may have been true.
Yeah, 100%. Yep. Developer is Nival. I've never heard of them.
Nope.
It's
Nival
intriguing.
Interactive,
Like they do a lot of stuff that I've heard of. I just didn't know they did this.
Now I'm just going to talk about Silent Storm more. So I really so speaking of stuff like that, something that I loved is at some point they developed the Walker Mech technology, and it's like a heavy armor suit. Obviously, the guy's in it. He has like Gatling guns, etc. But because it's alternate history, there are also laser guns in the game. So there are laser sniper rifles, but not just like a damage upgrade. Like I feel like the laser upgrades are in XCOM. It's like they have different properties. So a laser rifle is super armor piercing. It doesn't do damage to like tanks or mechs or whatever, but it penetrates them really well. And so like if you can kill the driver of a walker mech without destroying the mech. So like I just have this really great memory of like the walker mech walking up on us, and my laser rifle guy just targets right in the center of it, and you just see it go poof, and then just stops. And then in the next turn I send my guys up, and they have a whole animation for like opening the mech, throwing the dead guy out, and getting into it.
Oh my
and
God.
It's like, yes!
This game sounds perfect.
It's cool. It's cool. I mean, like I said, it's got usability issues for being 10 plus years old, but it did so many cool things at the time.
Oh man.
Anyway.
One more thing that I'm loving about XCOM 2, another introduction of randomness, is like some of the loot you pick up, you get an Elerium core item, which by itself does nothing, but it lets you then take it to a facility you can build called the Proving Grounds, where you can spend some engineering resources to develop a random ammo type upgrade, or a random grenade, or a random heavy weapon for your exosuits. So like I got you kind of roll the dice and get a random thing back. So I got one that does like slightly more damage and also has a chance to set people on fire. I got an ammo piercing ammunition. I got poison rounds. So just like you don't have any control over what you get back, so you just have to deal with play with what you're dealt. And I love that because it's like it prevents me from falling into a pattern. I get to I look at the pieces I'm given.
Routine.
Yeah, I look at the pieces I'm given and try to figure out a solution to familiar problems with new tools. And that to me is a very interesting way to extend replayability, even though it takes control away from you. But I'm kind of okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, some people are gonna really wish they could just play it the exact way they want to, but I think there's something really powerful about having to improvise.
And someone will mod it.
Yeah, someone will mod it.
That's always been my favorite thing about stealth games is the improvisation and recovery aspect. Like something unpredictable happens and you adapt and you solve the problem that you didn't see coming, and that is what makes stealth interesting to me.
Yeah.
It's not like, I snuck through a room and nobody saw me. It's I got caught and I had to figure out how to get uncaught.
Right. Yeah.
That kind of stuff is like what really makes video games strong, is like making you feel smart for figuring out a situation that you didn't want to be in.
Yeah, definitely.
So Mitch, we should move on to your most anticipated before
mine's
we're all dead.
Mine's just a bunch of lame indie stuff, that everyone will make fun of me for. Firewatch is
Tacoma.
Firewatch is top of the list. Tacoma, sigh. Oxenfree is really, really, really cool. I'm really excited for everyone to get to play that.
Yeah, I've just been seeing. It feels like a good amount of that game just got like a good spike of visibility in the last few weeks. Kind of like I kind of became aware of it recently. I'm like, oh, that looks really cool. That seems interesting. I'm excited to play it.
Yeah, they released a trailer last year at GDC. We're like, yo, this is awesome. Come by the office, please.
Yeah.
And they came by and hung out. We talked about it. And we've been following it ever since. And
It one's out this month, right?
Yeah.
It's out like in a week and a half or something.
Yes, and you should absolutely play Oxenfree. It's really
I
cool.
will.
That's kind of the top of the list. Running down, like, I made a cheat sheet for everyone to look at so we knew what games to talk about. But Perception, which is our IGN first this month, is really cool. You play a game as a blind person using echolocation to navigate a spooky space.
Daredevil.
Really cool. You're Daredevil.
bit
Epic's
Daredevil.
hero shooter MOBA thing, Paragon, seems interesting. I'm excited to learn more. The Witness is coming. Dan, I'm surprised you didn't say anything about Homeworld.
Well, I mean, Homeworld Sands of Karak, or Desert of Karak. Yeah. It's kind of a departure, so it's ground based. It's not. I know so little about it. Like they haven't really shown.
Yeah,
much of what
which
it
is a little worrisome because it's out real soon.
Yeah, it's out
this
on
month,
the 20th.
20th.
Yeah, so I'm getting to see it next week.
Okay.
But I just don't know anything about it yet.
Yeah. Hitman, Street Fighter V, Mass Effect Andromeda, obviously Far Cry Primal. We talked about a little bit. The Division.
I am interested in seeing what they do with Hitman. I mean,
Me too.
I've been a Hitman super fan
You're a
off and
Hitman.
on for a long time.
A hit fan.
Was it on at Blood Money and off every other time?
Not every other time.
Hitman 2 was really good.
I actually was not a big fan of Hitman 2, honestly.
Really?
I loved the
I don't know
first.
how it holds up now. I loved it in high school.
I loved the first game when it came out because it was such a unique thing and it was it had so many interesting features to it. I felt like there were just some balanced things about how they approached Hitman 2 that I wasn't into, and then Contracts was fine, and then Blood Money was amazing.
Yeah, I think 2 was the one where they had like the like big Japanese castle.
They had the snowy ninja
that
mission.
one.
Don't remember that at all.
Well,
then you
exactly why. but the problem was that with that one was they kind of lost what made that environment, those environments so interesting is the relatability.
Really relatable.
Right.
Relatability is like it looks like a real place.
Right.
Whereas in that one, I was like, well, this is a crazy, ridiculous place no one would ever go to. Or
and I felt like the tuning just made it way easier to get caught and way harder to like get out of trouble when you got into trouble. I mean, as far as the improvisation thing goes, that's what's wonderful about Blood Money is you can completely screw up and just flail me.
I'm gonna run away and I'm gonna dress up like a handyman and run back. And nobody's just
exactly. Or like
notice.
kill 6 people, leave them in a pile, run away so nobody knows you did it, and then be like, and like there's something that matters about that you can improvise and recover.
That's why it was a shame that the whatever follow up was
Absolution.
Absolution. Like I liked Absolution, but it was not a Hitman game. It was an action game with some.
Right.
Very cleverly scripted sequences to make you feel like you were having like a really daring escape.
There were
a couple missions that were more, but I get the the impression I get is that it seems like the team at IO is kind of at this point like okay.
Blood Money was the good one.
Yeah.
We tried it your way. People who wanted us to make a regular action game. Now let us make a Hitman game.
But Blood Money was really good, and maybe we should just make more of that. And if that's more or less what it ends up being, I'm gonna be psyched.
We started E3 and it looked like that, and I was like, perfect. This is the game I've wanted for like 5-6 years.
I just want more Blood Money with better controls.
Yep.
Perfect.
That's it.
I hope that's what this is.
I hope so. If it is, I'm gonna be over the moon.
And I'm glad they're not doing the piecemeal release thing they were talking about doing, where it's like, we'll put it out with like 2 things, and
right.
two sandboxes, and
Just
then
give me that
you'll
game
get the
at
rest later. They delayed it, so it will actually get at least most of it up front.
Cool. We're running a little bit long, but how could we not talk about Oculus Rift? And Jesus Christ, it's expensive at $600. But is it too much, Dan?
I
$599 US dollars.
My mistake.
So I pre-ordered it.
You pre-ordered it this morning?
Yeah. I was.
You saw the price tag and you're like, I'm in.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I mean like going back to.
By all means, I'm just saying.
But
I think. For one thing, yes, you do need to have some disposable income to buy a $600 device that you don't need.
That requires a beefy gaming PC.
Right. I mean, like it is a luxury gaming device.
Yeah.
There's no 2 ways about it.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But at the same time, so are high-end graphics cards. Mm-hmm. So are 27-inch monitors. So are like a bunch of things cost $600.
So is owning a gaming PC. Like that is not a cheap thing to have.
Right. I mean, it's not cheap, but it looks like it's high quality.
Sure.
So
sure.
Like I kind of.
Are you excited about
Oh, absolutely.
VR stuff? Have
Hugely.
you played stuff that's like really fantastic in VR? I've hardly spent
Not
any
on
time
Oculus.
using
Yeah.
VR.
Valve's thing is what really changed my mind about it. Like I played some Oculus stuff because you set it up in the office, one of the dev kits, months and months and months ago, and I was like, this is really cool, but it's not like gonna change the way I think about games. But then I played on Vive, and I was like, okay,
So I mean,
I'm on board.
There's
Super into VR.
There's the difference between games that are not made for VR and having it's like, okay, we're gonna do this in VR. Like Alien Isolation, we played some of that. That worked fairly
Half-Life
well.
2, it's like this
Half-Life
is
2
neat.
is kind of kludgy. just aiming and stuff.
Yeah.
Especially with a low res screen. The difference between stuff like that and a game that's designed for it is huge.
It's tremendous.
Like all the stuff that Valve has been showing with the Vive has been designed specifically for VR with VR inputs, stuff like that. So it's
what is the Oculus killer app for you? What's the thing what's the software that makes it worth
tail.
owning that thing?
Well, I mean, like I was playing like the Elite Dangerous.
I thought you were going to say Elite Dangerous.
Yeah, that
seems
Valkyrie.
like the thing that people are like, Elite Dangerous makes it worth it.
Yeah, just the training missions. Like I was really excited about Elite Dangerous until I figured out like it's kind of space trucking unless. Like I want an X-wing game, basically. Okay. But just the training, like combat training mission in that, like I played that dozens of times with the DK2, and anything where you're sitting in a cockpit, is going to be great.
There's something really surreal about looking down and seeing your pants and looking up and seeing space. Like, oh my god, it's real.
Yeah, I mean, just wait for Amazon Delivery Driver on Oculus.
It's
going to
coming.
be wild.
And I've actually been very impressed by things like I saw a demo at E3 last year for what was it, Air Mech?
Air Mech Arena.
Yeah, where you don't really think of a strategy game as something you play with an Oculus, but it turns out like it feels like you're looking at a table where the toys you got like figurines or toys, they're just moving. It's
right.
and you can interact with them. It's great.
That's why I'm excited about Insomniac's thing. Like they're doing a third-person horror game, and it's like. The camera's pulled like way back, and it's about seeing these big environments in 3D spaces that you can then like.
Oh, that's the snowy one, right?
Yeah. I can't remember what it's called, but
yeah.
It seems really cool. But it's very different than what you expect from most VR games.
But it's a third-person action game that you could see playing Tomb Raider like that. There are you just have to kind of rethink how you interact with them a little bit and how you're looking, how the camera's controlled. But it's totally doable, and it feels very different. So I'm excited about both aspects of it, both experiencing old games in a new way, and also new games that can only exist this way.
So they're selling it at a cost too. Like it is $600. They're not making money on this.
Yeah, Palmer Luckey tweeted about it, saying that they are not making any money off.
But I sort of expected the Facebook acquisition to sort of mitigate the cost a little bit to make it more accessible for consumers.
Because
now they can sell it at cost,
right? If they were a real company that had to make money, they would not be selling these things at cost. They'd be $800 or $1,000.
I really thought, and I don't know why, that Oculus would have been the one that's like, and it's $300.
Well, I mean that's what the dev kits were, and I think that's $300 and $350, and I think that may have set expectations kind of unrealistically low.
And even then, I thought that was a lot for a peripheral, basically.
I mean, like a
it's
monitor.
incredible, obviously.
Like monitors are that much.
Yeah.
Like a decent monitor is going to be at least $300. So like I don't feel like they're out of line.
Two decent monitors right here is going to be $600.
Yeah, I mean, considering you're getting two screens in your face, you're getting all the motion tracking stuff. Like that.
Does it pipe audio into earphones?
It does have built-in
inside
headphones.
of it.
Does it really?
Yep.
That's cool.
Although apparently they're not great headphones. I don't know.
No,
I'm not an audiophile, so I don't know. But I'm sure that
comes
will be fine
with a controller too.
It comes with an Xbox One controller, which I wish I could have opted out of to save.
Whatever, I'll take that if you don't want it.
I've already got one.
I'll take it. I'll take your free Xbox controller.
It's not free.
I'll take your $40 Xbox controller. Pay you $0.
Yeah. But I mean, you are paying them for it because
no, I mean you.
He's not paying you.
Okay.
Anything.
Oh, you're talking about
literally yours.
Your controller. Yeah.
Okay. So, but yeah. So it's not a cheap thing.
Yeah.
But it's like there's nothing else that does that. There's no other way to experience that. So, like I feel like saying it's overpriced. It seems weird to me because there's nothing to counter that.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think
also let's consider that in our pockets right now we all have at least $600 phones probably. Well, I don't know. Yours is pretty old. But when it came out,
I've never paid that much for phone. That's something that like your cell phone contract subsidizes the cost of the hardware.
Yeah.
I would not write a check. I would not take out my checkbook and write a check for $600. I have an iPad. Yeah. It was a few $100 when I bought it, but it wasn't $600. All I'm saying
totally
is like
one-to-one because those are versatile devices that do more and have more personal life utility, and you can take them places.
But like putting that aside, I guess all I mean to say is I think all that we're pointing out is like there are people who that price is equivalent to something that they think is worth. The experience is worth that much money, and like if we're sitting here and we're like, "Ooh, that sounds like a lot," it's like, okay, well that means
Yeah.
that means it
Just don't
doesn't
get
pass that bar for us.
No,
it passes that bar for other people, and then when the price comes down, maybe people who are like, okay, 400, okay, and so like,
just to be
so it
clear,
goes.
there's no one here is saying that $600 is a trivial amount of money.
Sure.
No.
Like it is a lot
No.
of money.
Yeah.
It is a luxury item.
Yeah.
And your point is that like $600 is literally what this thing is worth.
Yeah.
What the hardware, this amazing piece of technology is worth.
And like nobody, like if somebody was selling something, as good or better for less, then yeah, it's overpriced.
Right.
But
And I mean, I'm sure anybody like us or whomever that's listening, that they don't want to pay $600 for it, and they're cool with waiting a year or two.
absolutely.
Not going to be $600 anymore.
It's too expensive for me, but like Oculus Rift is not too expensive. It's just too rich for my blood.
Right. And so there are people that are going to be like, yes, I'm in day one. I have to be experiencing this right now. It's worth it. And that's great.
Yeah, and it's not something that everyone is going to have right now.
No.
Like
It's not something that everybody's going to have when it's $300, but like it's going to be a lot more accessible to more people that are less invested when it is at that point,
So I'm curious about why, not necessarily why, but like what the delay of the touch controllers means for this. Like they're going to be selling that later on. I'm a little concerned about like what those are going to cost in addition to the headset. Like it's starting to add up a little bit when you look at what the full Oculus experience requires.
Yeah, I would be surprised if the Oculus Touch controllers ended up being less than $100. I mean, I'll be very surprised because you're getting two of them. And
Maybe when the touch controllers come out, you know how like if you had kickstarted the dev kit, you just get they're sending you a consumer version.
Yep.
Maybe if you pre-ordered now, they'll just send you some controllers when it comes out.
I mean, I
That could be
pre-ordered.
cool.
So the only thing I got the option for was like, hey, we
Reserve your
we'll
spot.
save your spot
I
for the touch controllers. So
I see.
maybe
So
I'll
maybe
get
not.
first crack at those when they come along.
Yeah.
But
Ooh.
but yeah, I mean like $100 for two controllers basically.
Sure.
I don't think it's going to be an unreasonable amount for what you're getting. But again, not a trivial amount of money.
No.
This is going to be an investment to be on the forefront of VR.
Like a car. I'm like, man, that thing is probably worth $30,000, but
Right.
I definitely do not have $30,000.
That's why I just wonder about the.
I don't know if a Tesla is overpriced either.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's just why I wonder what the killer app is. Because it's like,
Lucky
is it the training mission
absolutely
of
Of
Valkyrie.
Elite Dangerous?
Valkyrie.
Because I don't know. It's sort of like, you can say that the hardware for XYZ game console is worth the sticker price, but like the real question is what am I going to be playing on it that makes me want to spend a bunch of hours with it?
yeah,
It's something that's not just a novelty of like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely
3D.
it definitely is not going to have a bursting out of the gate must play game.
Yeah.
Like, that's definitely
There
true.
isn't anything that like when you get the consumer version, you're like, I'm going to be playing.
There is cool
this.
stuff. Like Adrift is coming and Eve Valkyrie is coming, and there are cool VR games, but
Okay.
like we've had so little exposure to them that it's hard to determine like, oh, this is a great game and B, a great VR game.
That just seems like a problem for them because
Absolutely.
like I feel like they started sending dev kits out 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago,
Jesus.
2.5 years ago,
Yeah.
maybe. And I assume their idea was this will let there be a bunch of games that are ready for people to buy when the consumer version comes out. And I feel like the consumer version is going to come out, and I just don't know what people are going to be playing on them.
Yeah, I mean, there are going to be a bunch of just smaller games.
Yeah.
And I think people are still getting their feet wet. They're still trying to figure out what works in VR and what doesn't.
Yeah.
One thing I'm looking forward to is Super Hot. Like I played that in the on the DK2 like a year or two ago, and just like being able to actually.
Tilt your
move
head out of the way.
out of the way
As you move
of a
away
yeah.
from the microphone, back to the microphone away.
Yeah, and like that is a novel thing that you can only do in VR.
3D stereoscopic.
Yeah, I don't know. I played the demo on PC and was like, it's neat to just move out of the way with my WASD, but there is a certain appeal to like literally moving out of the way.
Yeah, with VR, just having that sense that your body exists in this space. Is crazy. Like,
And I played that game on like their current version of that on just a normal PC, and it was really cool. And I can totally see how being able to actually like dodge and move, by moving your head and stuff would actually add something to it, and that's cool. And it is, and it also fits because it's way less about like traditional FPS. I think are a hard sell for VR just because looking and moving and having a body and being in the world. But like super hot is much more about like you only move for short bursts in a really intentional way. So it probably still feels all right to have the headset on while you're doing it, I would imagine.
Yeah. And I think the very first thing I played on like John Carmack's duct taped together prototype was Doom 3. And it was I mean even then, like I took that thing off and like I'd like forgotten I was in the tiny booth at E3, like back room, and it was just like how much do you want? Like, give it to me, because it's like it was I've said it 100 times, but it's like nothing I've ever seen.
Yeah, VR's legit.
And I do think that the big draw for me is not an individual game. It's the wealth of novelty. Like there's so many different experiences you've never had before that you can have, and they're going to be unpolished.
Even like I would love an app store style thing where it's like I will pay $1, $5 or whatever to sit in a shark cage while shark slams into it and climb the wall of the Game of Thrones wall and sit on a underwater boat as a whale goes by. Like that sort of stuff is not a game, but it's cool and experiential.
There's going to be lots of non-gaming applications for it. I mean, like when Zuckerberg bought Oculus, that they was saying like it's
lots of tourism, education opportunities that all sound great.
Yeah, and like conceivably, like the like even like the Republican debates were live streamed through the Samsung VR.
I remember
Gear VR.
Gear is really cool.
I remember when when the sale happened, the quote that I read from Zuckerberg was like, "Be courtside at a Lakers game," and I'm like, I mean, that's actually
not that bad.
Good point. Yep. If you can just feel like you're there at like a live event and looking around like you would if you were there, that's probably one of the better uses of this technology, honestly.
I mean, even if it like weird obtuse stuff, right? Like you think about like a deathbed patient who never got to do something they wanted to do. Being able to give them that in some capacity is really, really, really amazing.
Or on the other side of the hospital bed, I mean, for like training surgeons and stuff,
Yeah, absolutely. And like there's tons and tons of applications for it. Some of them more fun than others, but like just again the novelty factor of it for me is what makes me pull the trigger. It's like I want to experience things I've never experienced before.
Didn't they just announce that that the commercial version is gonna have a front-facing camera?
I think that's
that's Vive.
Oh, okay. Because the thing that makes me think of, just as far as like medical training or something, right, is like if you had an Oculus and it was like this is a surgeon simulator.
There we go.
If you were going
liver out the back of the ambulance.
But if it was like an actual like surgery training program, the problem would be you couldn't see your hands, etc. Right. But if it had a front-facing camera, you can basically then do augmented reality with it, and it could track your hands, and it could be doing an overlay of like the training thing onto the actual real world, and it could track that your hands are interacting with something.
That's
or whatever.
The dream of the HoloLens.
Right.
That's more of what that's built.
Yeah.
For. HoloLens is a long way to go.
Yep.
But they played Minecraft with it.
Did they?
But I think and actually the Gear VR, because it uses a phone, has a camera on the front of it, and you can there's a button you can push that's like just put that on my screen.
It's also nice that like when the game bugs out and the screen inverts, you're like, hang on, where am I? Front-facing camera. Let me orient myself in the real world.
Yeah, that would be very handy for like, I need to see my keyboard now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is nice to come up for air once in a while.
I really wonder if mobile VR will keep up with something like Oculus, like how the sales compare, what the audience is going to be.
Oculus is partnered with Samsung.
Sure, yeah. I just like in terms of like adoptability, like what are people purchasing? Because a $100 Gear VR thing, obviously it's limited by the number of people who own Samsung devices, but it's
very specific Samsung devices.
It is, but it's very, very affordable. So like, can somebody find a middle ground where any mobile device will work, especially Apple? Like Apple has to be looking at this with some sort of interest.
Yeah. Or somebody will just make there's no reason you couldn't make a third-party add-on for an iPhone.
You think Apple is looking at Apple VR?
No.
I'm dubious.
No, you don't think so?
I mean, someone in there has with it.
Somebody,
definitely.
sure.
That's definitely happening.
But I'm not seeing a future where there's an Apple VR headset.
Not anytime real soon.
I feel like they're like I read some kind of I read something that maybe just speculated that they were getting into like driverless cars and stuff. And I'm like, that sounds like some Apple. It seems like Apple would go straight past the like, forget about your little VR stuff. We're making cars.
Yeah, they're absolutely doing the car.
That could be.
They're calling it Project Titan. But anyway,
there is no world in which Apple has not experimented with VR. At the very least.
Yeah. There's some VR headsets in Apple headquarters somewhere. You are
I
almost.
just want mobile VR for my iPhone. I just want a stupid Galaxy thing to fit my phone.
But I mean, like
That's all.
I've used the Samsung Gear VR quite a bit, and it's nice, but it's no
it's
Rift.
a significant quality difference, but it's still convincing. And
Yeah, I mean,
for $100,
Yeah,
like
I mean,
right on.
Yeah, I mean, there's some neat stuff. It's great. It's great for demoing. Actually, when GDC is in town, like every time I walk by like a restaurant with an open area outside, like there are like 2 or 3 people in there demoing stuff on Gear VR because it's just much more portable. Like there's having no wire attached to your head is a big deal.
That'll be Vive's big struggle, I think.
Yeah, because
you look
you're
like
supposed to
the
be moving
Predator
around,
in your living room.
Yeah. I mean, I've actually heard people talk about like tying it to the ceiling, so it's so there's a cord coming down from above instead of just dangling.
Yeah.
Interesting. VR is weird, man.
But yeah, I'm signed up. I'm getting one.
I'm excited. I'm excited for you to bring that into the office and for me to tinker with it. Cool. We should wrap this up. It has been 76 minutes and 44 seconds of our lives.
I think that's a
doing
new
this
record
podcast.
for us.
Steve, thanks.
I make this happen, apparently.
Yeah, every podcast we've done.
I make podcasts
They're
long,
so long.
and I apologize.
This is by far the longest show we've ever done, just like Unlocked. Thank you for coming by.
Hey, thank you guys for having me. Thanks for talking
game,
PC gaming with me.
PC Vidgies. Where do people find you on the internet?
Like
what do you promote? Everything. Do your thing.
Yeah.
Sell your Vidgies.
Yeah. Tacoma is going to be coming to PC and Xbox One later this year. You can go to tacoma-game.com to see a trailer and get links to other stuff about the game. You can follow me on Twitter at Fullbright, Fulbright, just like the studio name. And if you've played Gone Home on PC and you know somebody that's not a PC gamer and they'd want to check it out, it's going to come out on Xbox One and PS4 next week. So tell your friends.
Cool. I'm at MitchED on Twitter. Also do IGN's podcast Unlocked. That's our Xbox show. In addition to this, I'm not really working on anything fancy right now. Go read Dan's XCOM preview.
Yeah.
Well, watch it right now.
Oh, okay. You didn't do a.
I'm gonna try and get.
You're
that
working
done
on it.
Yeah.
I think we just
Alright.
heard his XCOM
We did,
preview.
yeah, basically. Hopefully, you go see some new footage. Did you do footage capture for it?
I did a overview on how the strategy layer works because until now no one has seen
Cool.
any of that.
Okay, so we do have new footage.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I'm gonna go watch that because I have not seen it. And you are Dan Stapleton on Twitter.
I am.
Anything else?
That's about it.
All right.
I'm going into Darkest Dungeon next because that's finally getting its final
real
release.
launch.
Yeah.
1.0.
This is gonna be a good month. Auction free, Darkest Dungeon, Tomb Raider. Next month is auction free, Far Cry.
XCOM.
I say Firewatch, probably did. Firewatch is coming. Oh my god.
You can say it again.
2016 is gonna
The
be
wetness.
so good. The wetness.
The wetness. Yeah.
The wetness.
The dampness.
Yep.
It's on its way.
And on that note,
Bye, everybody.